Hello, my name is Zachary Tellez, and I am a junior here at Kennesaw State University. Today I am discussing the reimagination of the restrictive art of theater through the Metro Collision Project. This summer I had the opportunity to work on the Young Metro Collision Project, where we went into DJJ facilities and participated in workshops with incarcerated youth. This was an extremely enlightening process that further defined what theater and art is to me. Theater is the center of conversation, with the goal of creating understanding and endowing one with the vocabulary to connect to one's own experience. Now, before I continue my discussion of theater and art and my experience this summer, I feel it is necessary we start with a discussion of the world and the juvenile justice system. 48,000 youth are a part of the juvenile justice system, 92% of which are in locked facilities. A locked facility is very similar to an adult prison. They are not allowed to leave and are under very strict rules. Now, the number of incarcerated youth in these facilities has been steadily decreasing since 2001, but the percentage of Black and Native American youth in the juvenile system has only been rising. Lots of the youth already have a diverse set of experiences, and further stress of these facilities does not foster creativity. In discussion with the DJJ faculty, we learned the electives offered were largely trade focused. The DJJ students are offered courses in cooking and electrical maintenance, and recently they have started classes in computer programming. So any art programming, performance, or visual is rare in these facilities. Now, the necessity of art programming is a hot topic across the board. Even in the world outside of these facilities, well-funded and supported art programs are rare. 82% of public schools across the nation have art programs, meaning they potentially have a visual and performance art program, but in many cases, it is either one or the other. In juvenile facilities, it is virtually zero. Now, through programs like the Metro Collision Project, we are seeing a rise in what is being offered to these youth, but these programs are through the endeavors of activists and educators and are in no way institutionalized. In many ways, these youth are being left out of an experience that would only support them. Earlier, I talked about theater as the center of conversation, allowing one to explore their own humanness. But one of the most vulnerable populations are being left out of this conversation. Now, my definition of theater is vague and largely to my own experience in the art form. So here is the most basic definition. Theater is collaborative performance art where actors communicate experiences on a stage. Now, I would argue that this is vague and insufficient. While performance art is theater, not all theater is necessarily performance art, because what about closet dramas? I agree with the theater communicating experiences, but it's sometimes to a very well-defined audience, sometimes just vaguely yelling into the ether. Also, stages are expensive. Lots of theater happens at parks and in backyards and on the street, anywhere where it is accessible. Just to provide a window into my experience with this discussion, as I complete undergrad and have started looking into grad school, the question of what is theater becomes loaded. It depends solely on the person you ask and what is the goal of the artist creating it. So for art purposes, I will be using neither my or the definition above, but the definition by Helen Nicholson. Theater is any space where people can explore ideas and represent stories that matter to them. What does that mean? Now, what Helen Nicholson is talking about is best defined as applied theater. The best way to think about applied theater is theater as activism, theater that is meant to address a specific demographic and a specific issue that is experienced by that demographic, and most importantly, created by that demographic. Earlier, I had this debate with myself over what is theater, and that debate is happening in colleges and seminars amongst practitioners and theorists across the world. What is beautiful about applied theater is that it has removed the absolute power of these institutions and taken the creation and the definition of theater directly to those who simply have something to say. That conversation, that discourse is no longer locked away in these ivory towers. It is being placed at the center of whomever wants to explore it. Now, a convenient example of what is applied theater is the Pulevsky Collision Project. To give you a brief summary of what the Pulevsky Collision Project is, it is something spurred by Atlanta area theater educators and sponsored by the Alliance Theater to give Atlanta teens the opportunity to explore and create art for themselves. Now, the Collision Project is a wonderful opportunity for any high school age student. I have had multiple friends do it, but this opportunity is not accessible to everyone. Applied theater is about sharing one's own experience and creating art that is for you, so something like this should be widely accessible. And this is where the Metro Collision Project was created. We followed the collision model with these incarcerated youth, and the outcome was beautiful. The collision model we followed basically went in three stages. We chose a piece of literature. For us, it was Amanda Gorman's The Hill We Climb. We then held class discussions and participated in brief writing prompts discussing how the text pertained to our personal experiences. Lastly, the students created virtual responses inspired by the text and provided a window into their own experience in the world. Now, while many of the other peer leaders were able to go into the facility for the length of the project, I had to remain virtual because of surrounding circumstances, but I got to watch the classes and the work of the students. Then I really stepped in during part 3 and did a chunk of the editing for the students' videos. While I wasn't able to build any form of personal connection with the students, I was able to work closely with their writing and from that work with them creating a visual presentation, just giving them a window into what is the creative process and ultimately letting them create their own. In conclusion, theater, in my opinion, can best be defined as the center of conversation, allowing individuals to express themselves and further understand themselves in the world. While with research like this, there is no statistical or physical data, but the outcome noted by both the Metro Collision team and the DJJ faculty was there was a new sense of confidence amongst the students who participated in our project. They have an outlet and the vocabulary to process their experience themselves. When it comes down to accessibility, it is a given. But what matters more is, are you going to take the time to listen?